Thank you very much, and Professor Gollenbach. You've obviously been a very, very long time campaigner for diverse families. The studies that you have done, and indeed the research that you have done, have been based on a very small sample of maybe a couple of dozen of people. Given the small sample sizes, it is hard to arrive at a definitive conclusion. For example, on page 4, your document, it says of one study that the findings are presented of a study of families created through surrogacy arrangements. 42 surrogate families were compared with 51 egg donation families and 80 natural conception families. And given the idea of how small the numbers are, surely best studies into family involve far bigger numbers than this. Did you find that it was difficult to get the research? It was difficult to, because the numbers seem quite small.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. So the numbers are quite small. In fact, I mean, they're different. It really comes back to the point I made earlier about the need for replication. Now, of course, there are different ways of studying families. Our approach at the Centre for Family Research in Cambridge is to do very in-depth longitudinal studies. And as I said before, to get very in-depth data using lots of different methods and with lots of different informants in the family. Other research might do something, like surveys of larger numbers of people. And I think we need all of these approaches. In terms of the numbers, in fact, I think the numbers we had, given the in-depth nature and reliability of the measures that we used, that we would certainly have picked up any moderate differences had they existed. So you can't really make blanket statements about what is a large sample and what is a small sample. But for family studies that are as in-depth as ours, then usually you would aim for ideally about 50 families in each group. As it happened with the surrogacy ones, we only managed to recruit within our sampling time frame 42. But what I would say about these 42 is that they were very representative, because we were fortunate in that we were able to collaborate with the Office of National Statistics in the United Kingdom, who is where they register parental orders when the intended parents become the legal parents of the child. And on our behalf, the Office of National Statistics approached the families, and we had a very high response rate. So in some ways, the representativeness of the sample is more important than the number, because with volunteers, you might just get families who maybe have an axe to grind or are doing particularly well, because those who aren't might not want to take part in research. So I think, that is one big plus about the study, but I completely acknowledge that, it's one study and the results have been positive, but it would be really helpful to have more research, perhaps using, as you say, focusing on larger samples, although the methods then would necessarily be less in depth.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.